You hear about the importance of networking all the time, and especially for those of you who are looking to change industries or start a new career path, everyone will emphasize to you how important it is to build up your professional network in that industry, both to figure out what it is you want to focus on and to find people who may be in a position to hire you or mentor you. But how do you actually go about building up this professional network? Well, in today's video, we're talking informational interviews, one of the most powerful tools that you have to build up that professional network. And to help walk us through it is Dave Strausberg. Dave is an employment lawyer. He's also a professor of public communications and public speaking and negotiations, and he has developed an incredibly effective method to conduct these informational interviews. Dave, thank you so much for being with us.
I am so excited to be here participating in this today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive in. And in a nutshell, can you tell us what informational interviews actually are?
Absolutely. At its core, an informational interview, it's a non-traditional way to really develop your own professional network and get on your career path, once and for all. More specifically, it's a way to just really, in a pressure-free environment, have an opportunity to reach out to people that are in professions that you're interested in, talk to them, have conversations with them, learn about what they do so that you can best make decisions for what you want to do going forward.
Amazing. And if you can speak a little bit to how do informational interviews actually help you to land a job?
Sure. And there's a couple ways for that. One of them is it helps alleviate analysis paralysis. There are so many people that feel like they want to do 10 different things, and that's okay. But researching it and reading about it can only take you so far. If you really want to get on your career path, you need to immerse yourself in that profession itself. So an informational interview gives you an opportunity to connect with people that work in those professions that you're curious about. And you would be amazed at all the different types of opportunities that can come from there.
Fantastic. And can you walk us through the steps involved in actually conducting an informational interview?
Absolutely. So there are 7 steps. And the first thing that you want to be able to do, step number 1, is you've got to figure out what it is that you want. And that's a pretty broad instruction because it can mean a few different things to a few different people. Some people know exactly what they want to do in their profession. They grow up and they know that they want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher or a musician or an accountant or whatever it is. And great, you're off to the races. Focus on then talking to professionals that are in those types of areas. For other people, you want to do all of these different types of things, and that's okay as well. What you really want to do in that instance is say, okay, I'm going to allow myself to be interested in all these different types of areas, but I'm going to find people that work in each of those professions and make sure that I speak to each and every one of them too. That's one part of it. The other part of knowing what you want is then focus on what you're trying to get out of the informational interview itself. So are you looking to be able to get a job because you're going to be graduating? Are you looking to switch careers? Are you looking for perhaps a summer position or an internship? Have in the back of the mind for what it is that you would like to be able to accomplish. But that leads us to step number 2, which is really be okay not getting it right away. The beauty of an informational interview is it allows you to have these highly engaged professional conversations with individuals that are in the areas that you want to get into at some point. But if you go into it and you're like, so where's my internship? It's not going to work out for you at all. So you've got to know what you want, but keep that in the back of your mind. And you want to focus really on making sure that everything is as conversational and as easy as possible. Step 3 is then identifying the professionals that you want to speak with. So you focused on kind of knowing what you want. You've gotten in the mindset of being okay with not getting it right away. Now it's time to figure out who it is that you're going to talk to. Now, there's really 2 different paths that you can take for this as well. You can start with people that you know. Everybody says that they have, I've got a brother-in-law who has a friend who knows somebody else that works at Apple, or they say, I've got an aunt that works at this management consulting company, or, my sister does this type of work in fashion. Well, that's awesome. So instead of just talking about that, now it's time to actually reach out to them and ask them questions about and your desire to participate in an informational interview. I would say then to you, the idea is you want to, after you speak with them, ask them if there's anybody else that you could potentially speak with that they may be able to put you in touch with. The other aspect is that you can try to go in cold. Okay. You could decide, hey, I want to talk to somebody at Google. So I'm going to get on LinkedIn. I'm going to look at everybody that works at Google. I'm going to send them an email and I'm going to just sort of see what happens. there is a direct correlation between how well you know the individual, okay, versus how well you don't, and how likely you are to hear something back. So to give you an example, I was talking with a student of mine recently that was trying to get into construction management, and his uncle did construction management. It was pretty easy to get that informational interview, and it was really helpful. His uncle put him in touch with somebody else that did construction management and helped sort of broaden his professional network. Another student that wants to get into book publishing, well, she doesn't know anybody in publishing whatsoever, so she had to reach out to 16 different publishers before she heard back from somebody. But when she did hear back from them and conducted an informational interview, it actually led to an internship for her. So that next step 3 is identifying who it is that you want to speak with. Step 4 is you've got to be able to ask for the interview. And really, at this stage, I would advise you very strongly not to give your entire life story at all, okay? You want to be quick, direct, to the point. You want to say, hey, and in this instance, again, my name is Dave. Hi, I'm Dave. I'm interested in, learning about XYZ. I came across your profile, or I was put in touch with you by a mutual acquaintance, and I would love to learn a little bit more about what it is that you do and the path that you took to get there. Do you have 15 minutes or so for an informational interview? That's it. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that whatsoever. But you want to make sure that you actually go about and make that ask. The next step is that you want to actually be conducting the interview. So here's where all of your hard work thus far, okay? It's where you have figured out what you want, okay? Being okay with not getting it right away. It's where you've identified those individuals that you want to speak with. It's where you've asked them for that interview, and now you're actually going to conduct it. So what does that look like? Students ask me all the time, well, what am I supposed to ask? And the real simple answer to that question is you ask them the questions you want answers to. You have to divorce yourself from the idea that this is some sort of robotic type of assignment where you have to ask things that you have to check off and say, okay, well, I asked this, I asked this, I asked this. The goal is to make it as conversational as absolutely possible. But I will tell you a couple of good questions to ask are, the first one I would suggest is, what does a typical day look like for you? And I promise you that the response that you will get from the individual is some sort of weird laugh where they will be like, ha ha ha, there's no such thing as a typical day. And then you can say, okay, well then tell me about any given day. And you will be off to the races as far as a conversation. Something else that's really helpful to be able to ask is, what path did you take to get to where you are today? And it's really interesting. If you have that innate curiosity, then you'll find this question super interesting to kind of learn about what the path that everybody took, because it'll be super fascinating to hear that some people, they took a really traditional path. They work at company X, and in order to work at company X, they got their degree, studying something very in particular. They got an internship doing something very in particular and continued on that path. And it was very straight and deliberate. And that's awesome. But a lot of other people will say something like to you, I never thought that I would be here. I never thought that this would be the type of industry or job that I would have. And I absolutely love it. And it'll be fascinating to hear really how it is that they were able to get there. So the goal when you're conducting the interview is to just make it as conversational as possible. Okay. The next step after that is you really want to focus on step 6 is following up. Okay. And here in many ways is where the networking actually begins. For every single person that you conduct an informational interview with, you want to send them an email, even if it's your uncle. Okay. Get practice. Okay. Practice. Send them an email and say, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to sit and talk with me earlier today. Okay. Or to have a conversation. I really enjoyed learning about X. And that's it. And say thanks. And then the idea after that is for the people that you really hit it off with and that you felt like there was a good energy between, and you feel like that perhaps there is a good professional opportunity for you going forward, you want to make sure that you're following up with them and giving them updates, as often as you like, in a way that doesn't feel like it's too much. If you're a law student, you can say, hey, just wanted to check back in and let you know that I just finished the semester, or I just graduated, or I just passed the bar exam, or I just got my first law job. Whatever it is, you can have the ability to send something back to them. And I will tell you, not every single time you send something will the individual write back, but you'll be surprised at how often you do hear back or what types of professional opportunities actually still come your way. The last step that I would have for you, step 7, is to do this again and again and again. Okay. I am an individual that I say all the time, I did not invent, informational interviews at all, but I do have a method that has perfected it. And I've conducted hundreds of them throughout my academic and professional career. And each time you do them, you will get better and better at doing that. So even if you look at it as just a way to be able to practice your own skill set for when you're in those types of, traditional job interviews, I promise you that the more that you do them, A, you won't be as nervous. B, you'll be expanding your own professional network. And C, you will then actually know people. The more people you interview, the more people you'll actually know when it comes time for you to be able to look for a job. So I strongly advise that you just keep doing them. I myself, I'm way out of law school. Okay. I've been a practicing attorney for a while. I have a job, yet I still conduct informational interviews as a way to continue to grow my own professional network.
Wow, thank you so much for that rundown. That was crazy informative. And the next question I have for you is that if you're getting started doing informational interviews for the first time, what are some of the most important things to keep in mind?
That's a great question, and a question I'm pretty familiar with. There's probably 3 different things that I would say that you want to think about going into, starting to do your own informational interviews. The first one is, if you are a student, these are made for you. They are very simple to be able to do and to connect with individuals, because all you have to say is, I'm a student looking to learn about X. Okay. Even if that's not what your major is, it's okay to still say that you're learning about it. You're still being genuine in saying that. And students are extremely non-threatening. No one is going to be like, I wonder why this person is reaching out. If you're somebody who's looking to make a career change or, develop further in your career, it can be a little bit more tricky than when you're reaching out to somebody cold for an informational interview. But my suggestion to you in that type of space would, instead of saying I'm a student, because you can't, focus instead on the skill sets that you have. Okay. So focus and say, hey, I'm really great in customer service and I'm looking to continue to develop my skill sets there. I noticed that you're in this type of space. I'd love to be able to talk to you more. Or I see that you do financial modeling and I have a little bit of an accounting background and I would love to get, some more experience there as well. The second thing that I would say when you're trying to get started on your own informational interviews is, you don't have to be somebody that says, I'm going to do 50 or I'm going to do 100 or I'm going to do 500. I hope you do, but it can be really daunting at first. My advice to you right now, if you're trying to get started, is just start with somebody, just start with one. Okay. And start with somebody that you know. Now, don't forget to ask them to put you in touch with somebody else that you could be in touch with. But I would say if you're just getting started and you don't know where to go, do not let analysis paralysis take over. Just focus and say, you know what, I'm going to do one. I teach college classes where the entire semester we focus on, as an assignment, just doing one of these. And it's cool to see, the results that happen, because so many of my students end up getting jobs and internships, but just focus on the one. The third point that I would say that you should focus on when you're trying to start doing your own informational interviews is, you've got to get in this mindset that you're actually in control of the interview. That means that you're the one setting it up. You're the one that's asked for that time. So that means that you're the one that has to schedule how long it's going to be. You've got to say it's got to be 15 minutes or 30 minutes, and you've got to stick to whatever that is. It's okay, and lots of informational interviews go longer, but you have to be the one that when it comes up to minute 13 and you've asked for 15 minutes, to acknowledge that and say, I realize we only have 2 minutes left. Another point that I mean when I say that you own it is that no one is going to confirm with you and say, hey, so we've got this informational going on interview tomorrow. You have to be the one that takes the opportunity to confirm with that individual as well. You're in charge of this process, and owning that is going to help you be more successful when you're trying to get started on these informational interviews.
Fantastic. And next question for you would be, what are some of the major mistakes you see people making in their informational interviews?
There are plenty of mistakes that people make in their informational interviews. The good news is you make them less and less the more that you do. But the 5 that I probably see over and over again would have to be as follows. The first one is, people just don't ask genuine questions. They're way too robotic. They feel like they have to be asking very specific technical questions about something without, like what I said earlier, you got to ask the questions that you want answers to. So they'll end up conducting the interview. They'll ask a whole bunch of questions that they think that they're supposed to ask, and then they'll leave not being any closer to whatever their professional goal is going to be. It happens all of the time. Fortunately, when you follow up, you can have the opportunity to ask additional questions, but you really want to make as good a first impression as you possibly can. I can give you an example of this too. Back when I was in law school, the Career Center held a panel discussion with 3 different attorneys and invited all of the law students to be able to attend. There was this student sitting next to me, almost rocking back and forth while the attorneys were presenting. And when they were done, I could see that he was holding his resume, and he bum rushed them after the presentation, handed each of them his resume. They kind of looked at it confused, and then he walked away with this look on his face like, "Hey, I just networked." He's like, "I just did it." And he did not. He did not just network. And I didn't quite see those attorneys discard his resume, but I'm sure that it's probably what they ended up doing. So it's one thing to do the things that you think you're supposed to do, but if you don't take the time to actually follow up and ask the types of things that you want to know answers to, it's a mistake, okay? You want to make sure that you're not in a situation where you are handing people your resume and then walking away and are like, "I just networked," okay? Another big mistake that I see, especially from people that are just starting out, is they ask for some sort of big help right away. They set up the interview, they sit down and they say, "I'd love for you to review my resume." Or maybe when they ask for the interview, they say, "I'd love for assistance with my cover letter here." Okay. Asking for that type of assistance is completely against the spirit of what a good informational interview looks like. An informational interview is all about having a conversation and having a genuine curiosity to be learning more. That doesn't mean that you can't ask questions about your resume. But instead of handing somebody a copy and saying, "Can you please review this or give me your feedback?" Instead, through that conversation that you're having with that professional, you can say, "Wow, you're really articulating that well, whatever that position is. Can you sort of explain to me what types of skills you're looking for from someone that you might be hiring?" And then take some notes, because those skills are the types of things that you'll want to either develop or showcase on your resume itself. The third big mistake that I see is a lot of times people will say to somebody, "So how much money do you make?" That is not a great question to ask, and it is not met or received well by the person being asked at all. Now, I went on this huge explanation before about ask the questions that you want to know the answers to, and you probably want to know the answer to what that looks like. But again, there's a different way to be able to do it. Instead of saying, "How much money do you make?" think about rephrasing that question instead to say something like, "Can you give me an example of what the pay range would look like for somebody who is at your level or in type of position?" It's much less threatening, and you're much more likely to get an answer that doesn't seem like you are interrogating that person or making it way too difficult for them. Okay. The fourth mistake that I would see is that people that listen to the interview, they go through it and they're like, They're like, "So I want to apply for a job. So I want to be able to be here." That is not something that you want to be able to do. Again, the spirit of the informational interview is to have a conversation and to learn more. But once again, there's a way to be able to get that across without being so direct. And the way that I've done it all the time over and over in my career, which has actually led to multiple job offers and jobs, is to be able to say at the end, "Hey, this sounds really fascinating what you're doing. Okay. I really enjoyed talking with you. And if you ever have any opportunities that potentially come up, I hope that you think of me for one of them." That's all you have to say. You will be surprised at how often somebody says back to you, "Well, actually, we are hiring," or "I'll keep you in mind for this," or "I may not be doing, looking or hiring for that job right now, but I know somebody else who potentially is." The last mistake that I would say that people often commit when getting started on their informational interviews is they'll get caught up on one person. They'll find somebody that works at one company and they'll think that that person knows all the answers and they have to talk to them, and they can't talk to anybody else until they speak to that individual. You got to move on. If you are obsessed with speaking to some general counsel that works for one company, I promise you there are many other general counsels that work other places as well. And don't be offended if somebody doesn't reach back out to you if you're reaching out to them cold. You don't know what they've got going on. You don't know what type of situations that they've got at work or with their family or anything like that. The goal is to stay positive and to continue on reaching out to try to find as many different people as you could potentially speak with without getting hung up on just one individual.
So you've said that you started informational interviews in undergrad and that you've continued them for almost 20 years, all the way throughout your professional career as well. Can you tell us a few examples of how you've seen success with informational interviews in your own life?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you that every single job that I have ever had, every single one of them that I've ever had in college and post college as well, has come from an informational interview. Okay. So they started for me when I was in undergrad. I kept trying to get a job with the Washington Wizards when Michael Jordan came out of retirement. And I wanted to work there so badly. I kept sending my resume. I kept calling, nothing. Nobody would get back to me at all. I wanted an internship so badly. I was taking a public relations class, and my professor told us to interview somebody that worked within public relations. Very long story short, I ended up speaking with somebody at the Washington Wizards in the public relations department, conducting my own informational interview. And that led to my first job out of college, which involved getting quotes from Michael Jordan after games in order to share with different types of media outlets. You fast forward then until when I went to law school, several years after that. And I thought law school was going to be a cakewalk. I'd already been to grad school. That wasn't too challenging. And I thought that law school would be easy. I was wrong. I tanked my first semester. Now I did really well the rest of my time while in law school. I was on the dean's list and was able to bring up my grade point average, but I thought that I was never going to be able to find a job. So I went back to informational interviews and I started reaching out to all different types of lawyers at big firms, small firms, different types of companies. Okay, I'm a big Disney fan. I reached out to individuals at Disney. I reached out to solo practitioners, people that worked in all different aspects of law that I was just curious about or wanted to be able to learn about. It really helped me choose some of the classes that I took. And I ended up getting a clerkship just from doing an informational interview because I had found a partner at a big law firm's website that said that he was a chief labor negotiator. I reached out to him and I said, "What's a chief labor negotiator?" We ended up meeting, doing an informational interview. That same day, he offered me a position at the firm, and I was able to work there while I was in law school. There was another time where I conducted an informational interview at a jury and trial consulting firm where the person that I was interviewing didn't even realize that it was an informational interview. And it was a complete mix up that ended up being quite fortuitous because at the end of the interview, the individual said to me, "Well, I've heard about people kind of taking the reins of the interview and the interviewee asking questions, but wow, you really asked a lot. We're happy to offer you the position." My response was, "What position?" And I ended up being a jury and trial consulting while I was in law school and a little bit beyond as well, which was a lot of fun. There was another experience when I was in law school where I found out that the general counsel for former President Clinton's Clinton Global Initiative actually had attended my school beforehand. And I worked real hard to get in touch with him to be able to conduct an informational interview. And while that didn't necessarily lead to a job, it led to a really great connection because he and I are still in touch today. But shortly after doing our interview, a couple days later, he invited me to a Clinton Global Initiative event where I had an opportunity to talk to former President Clinton about what I was studying in law school. All of that came from informational interviews. And the last one that I'll share is I mentioned earlier that I'm a big fan of Disney. I wanted to work at Disney so badly. I did informational interviews with professionals working in all different areas of Disney for such a long time. And remember, I said earlier, it's important to be able to follow up and keep that follow up going. There was a person that I just kept following up with those updates. "Hey, I graduated law school. Hey, I took the bar. Hey, I passed the bar. Hey, I'm working here." Continue to stay in touch. Sometimes I'd hear back from her, sometimes I wouldn't. And then all of a sudden, once I was already practicing into my career, I heard from her and she said, "We are hiring a employment law labor attorney, which is what my background is in. I think you'd be a good fit for it. Would you like to apply for that?" And I actually had to I reached a point where I actually had to say, "You know what? I'm married now. I'm settled. I've started my career where I'm at. I've got a child." I was turning down what my dream job was, what that opportunity was. But again, this is just proof positive at the power of what informational interviews have the ability to be able to do for you. And as I was saying to you earlier, Angela, I still do them to this day. Okay. I conducted one or two interviews this past week that have been really awesome.
Yeah, and that's actually how we met originally too, was through an informational
Mhm.
interview and just getting to know each other and what each other were working on and did in our careers. And so that's an absolutely incredible story. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Absolutely. I was happy to share it with you.
And if people want to follow up with you, how can they find you? Where should they reach out?
Best place to find me is to follow me on LinkedIn. Go ahead, reach out to me with any of your questions that you have about informational interview or networking. Again, my name is Dave Strasberg.
Thank you so much, Dave, and have a great week, everybody. We'll see you in the next one.